What's going on, everybody? We're here at the Performance Academy in Apex, North Carolina. I'm joined by Sam Kulasingam, two-time Mountain West Player of the Year, draft pick of the Blue Jays in 2023, and potential draft pick in the 2024 draft. We're going to walk through his routine in the box and talk about some of his feels as a switch hitter. So let's get into it. All right, Sam, so we're gonna start in front toss, right? Talk about maybe why you go right into flips, and especially as a switch hitter, what your drills are for front toss and flips specifically.
So I usually use T-work for a very specific goal. So if I'm struggling to hit a high pitch specifically, we'll set up high T. If I'm struggling low and away or low and in, I'll set those up. Those are a lot harder to recreate specific locations with flips or machine. So that's when I would use T more. Day-to-day basis, we usually just start front toss. So for me, it's pretty simple. I basically do 3 drills every day. 2 split feet, 1 closed, 1 open, and then a step back. So the closed really just helps me feel my lead leg block.
You mind showing us what that looks like before we get into it?
So it helps me feel this, because I mean, if you watch a lot of major league hitters, no one is like this. They can help it. So it helps me feel that block. It also helps me feel my bat path when I'm out in front. So if I can stay on this ball here when I'm split, when I'm swinging normally, I'll be able to stay on inside pitches and stuff. And then I go the other way as well. So I'll open up. This helps me feel myself get slotted early, so that I can, maybe I get blown up by a 95 mile an hour fastball, but if I'm on plane early, maybe it's a single to the right side.
Yep.
And it also helps me feel throughout the swing, me stay down. I know I'm in trouble when I'm doing this, I'm standing up, because that translates in my actual swing to me standing up while I'm hitting, which is not what you want to do. Lastly, we'll go into a step back drill. This basically just helps me feel my coil. I'm not a super big turn guy. Everything I feel is basically from here to here, and so that basically just helps me emphasize that movement.
Okay, so first question, is there any, what's the load? Are you kind of screwed in the ground on your closed and open? And what's the reason why for being screwed in the ground?
So I don't want my lower half doing any more work than it should. So I don't want this. I don't want my back foot to spin. I don't want my front foot to spin hard or anything like that. It's really focusing on right here, just this hip turn, making sure it stays anchored and doesn't bend, and then the rest is all upper body, tilt, hands go. At
certain times, I feel like hitters compensate with their lower half, right? If we're not in sync in our upper half and doing the right things up top and being direct through the ball, our upper or lower half gaining ground can sometimes compensate for those moves. So sometimes being anchored in can help too. Just isolate the upper half and make sure it's working efficiently.
Totally agree.
Same thing on both sides of the plate. We're going to show right-handed just because the camera angle, but is it same thing both sides of the plate?
Yep, same thing. So I try to keep my drill work consistent between both sides, and then when we get into games and stuff, my approaches are different because my swings are different, and that's totally okay.
Perfect. All right, let's get into it. Good. So I see is there intent to attack in the inside part of the baseball? I know that's a saying that a lot of high-level hitters talk about. I could tell the first one, did you feel like you kind of got out and around, and was there an intent, full adjustment to get inside of it there?
Get back to it. So I think the big part, one of the other things this drill helps with is just obviously catching the ball out front, near your front foot. If you're in your normal swing and you get to that point of contact, you can, obviously that's going to turn into a ground ball to short or ground ball to third. Just a rollover, which is not ideal. And so for me, something I learned from our old hitting coaches is try to stick those So basically, you never let your hands roll.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you actually swing, your hands are going to.
Yeah.
But in this drill specifically, like they basically teach us to try to stick this just so we can feel us staying through the ball and staying inside the ball.
We've seen a lot of guys in the big leagues that have gone to that, as I like to call it, sawed-off finish, but basically where they're cutting it off. I mean, Mookie Betts is obviously the main guy who's seen a huge uptick in his power numbers, and he is just completely like no rollover, out in front kind of direction to center field, and I like that. It's hard to teach that for guys a lot of times, but I definitely like the thought process of never rolling over because it keeps you, like you said, direct through the baseball. So any other feels from the close or anything in general that you like to think about there?
I mean, this is pretty true for everything. Is your goal is to backspin low liners, right? Like you don't want to pop the ball up. You don't want to topspin balls. If you're backspinning low liners, that'll translate into, you know, singles, doubles, home runs.
And the misconception with that a lot of times, and I try to explain this to a lot of hitters, is backspun low liners actually do end up creating poolside homers in game because we're not leaky in our moves or anything like that. We're actually going to create that backspin to the poolside. Would you agree with that there?
Yep. Your moves are tight. You're staying through the ball. That creates the backspin to the poolside gap.
Perfect. All right. So is now right into open stance.
Now we're going to go right into open. Yep.
Perfect.
So basically just trying to feel slotted early and feeling myself not come up throughout the swing.
Definitely. Good. So we had this conversation when we were standing here getting ready, and how important is it to not be a slave to the results when you're doing specific drills like this, to understand like what's going to kind of create those results in game?
Well, I think the first thing I was a victim to this too when I was younger, is everything is so results oriented, you forget why you're doing the drill in the first place. For example, we were talking about onset machine work, and how like the ball's coming this way, you're not trying to hit a 400-foot home run to right. What you're trying to feel is you're trying to feel tight, and you're trying to feel yourself not spin to get to the ball to create that space. And so you're okay getting beat and hitting liners, like even if they're soft liners at second base, because that's the point of the drill. Now, when you get in game, that's going to translate, and you're going to start hitting balls really hard, backspinning well, staying through stuff. And so I think being process focused and feeling what needs to be felt so that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish is way more important than hitting a ball 95 in front toss in the cage.
And that's why it's important to have challenging environments and not just have everything be, as they say, 40 miles per hour from 40 feet right down the middle, grooving it and feeling yourself. Like, again, there are time and place for feel-good swings because hitting is so mental, but we need to challenge ourselves and put ourselves in uncomfortable environments because baseball is uncomfortable, right? A pitcher's trying to mess up your timing, and these drills set you up to be on time longer, more often, and set your body up for a lot of success to hit 3 different pitches all in the strike zone and obviously get in there and compete. So love that. Anything else with the open stance that you like to feel? Obviously that conversation was a little bit different, but from the drill standpoint.
No, biggest things are make sure you're getting slotted early. Once again, you are trying to backspin it. This one's a little freer. Like for me, I don't cut myself off. Like I let the hands finish through. But the big part there is make sure you still have the intent to stay inside the ball and stay through it. Otherwise, you will start topping balls. And then obviously staying grounded. So you're not trying to just absolutely demolish one. You're trying to get the feel of staying in your legs.
No doubt, no doubt. So you said the last one was the step back, and this is just trying to get your body primed and moving in the right direction. Is there a difference, like timing-wise? When do you start your step back? Is it just a feel thing and you're kind of dancing with the feeder?
Basically. So I'll basically start off you. For me, it's not a super drastic step back. It's really, my goal is to just feel tension in this hip and on this backside. And then I can hopefully use that tension to hit the ball hard.
Perfect. Good. So first question I have for you, how important is it to be, especially in a front toss setting, to kind of be, for lack of a better term, slow through your load? Like I feel like as I'm feeding you, and again, we work with hitters of all ages, it's so in control until it's explosive at the last second. When you're doing a drill like a step back, it's very easy to get back and jumpy because you're activating that back leg and activating that coil. How important is it to be back and just be able to make sure you're slow in processing and how that translates to game as well?
I think it just goes back to feeling what you want to feel.
Yeah.
For me, if I did this drill at 100%, I know I'm going to step back and immediately come forward, because that's what your body wants to do. When you load into something, you want to come out of it. Yeah. So for me, it's the ability to load into it and stay in it as long as I need to stay in it. And I think for me, it's kind of what I do in the game too. Yeah. You don't see me, I don't swing as hard as I can, just because for me that leads to a lot of inconsistencies. So I get big, I'll pop up, I'll yank, and it leads to a lot of results that I don't want. And so for me, thinking, 80% here, just helps me flow more, and it helps me stay within myself, and it helps clean up my mechanics in game.
As I always like to say, it's like you don't get rewarded extra for hitting a ball 480 feet. They all count at 365. They all count at 380 as long as runners are on base. And being controlled, like I don't know if you're privy to this data or these metrics, but I would bet your bat speed doesn't go down a ton. I guarantee at least you probably feel power-wise. It's not like ramping up intensity and chasing an extra mile per hour to a bat speed creates these just perfect results or anything like that. I would bet your power is more inconsistent at that time.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, like you said, maybe you get an extra couple miles an hour, but I'd say the percentage of barrels that you actually achieve is a lot lower. Yeah, and I'm sure there's data on that somewhere, people that are much smarter than me. But
every hitter's different too, but we've this year's been the year of the bat speed, and everybody's talking about how important bat speed is, but like the ball's moving. Their pitchers can throw 3 or 4 pitches. They can throw it inside, they can throw it outside, compared to a sport like golf where swing speed is the end-all be-all, where it's like that ball's sitting still, and as long as we can get club face squared, we're probably going to hit it a long way. Baseball, if we're not on plane for a long time, if we don't move the right way, our bat speed's obsolete at that point in time, right? We got to be in the guardrails of the foul pole. So anything else from a front toss standpoint that you like to feel? Or?
Just those 3.
Perfect. All right, let's get into the machine. All right, Sam, so we're going to go into some machine work here. We're going to do specifically offset for you hitting right-handed. 2 questions. What's the importance of machine work and kind of replicating game-like environments? And then the second question is, why offset? Looks weird, it's funky, why offset?
So number 1, machine work is awesome. We use it every day in college, because at the end of the day, no human arm except a collegiate or professional pitcher can recreate what a collegiate or professional pitcher is going to throw like. So that's why we use machines to recreate, spin if a guy's got a lot of induced vertical, sink, sliders, changeups, whatever is the guy we're facing specialty, we'll fire up a machine, and it just gives a much more realistic version of that pitcher. For offset, we do it a ton. For us, we really focus on it's all about staying tight. And with this ball coming into us, sometimes people have the urge to give themselves more time and space by opening up early. And that's obviously going to lead to, you're going to topspin balls, you're going to flare balls. So you basically have to fight that and stay on it, even though that ball is coming into you. So it's going to get on you a little quicker than you may expect. And stay through it, and obviously try to hit it. We always focus basically backspin, gap to gap, roughly.
Any cues specifically that you like when you're doing offset stuff? Like, I mean, every hitter's different, so not saying that anybody who hears this is the light bulb's gonna go on, but like, I know I've used keep your nose in it, you know, head down, whatever it is, front shoulder closed, think oppo gap, like all the kind of external feedback that we can get. Is there anything specific that works for you?
I think for me, especially from the right side where my hands are a little faster, I really have to think back at the machine, backspun in that right center gap. An ideal outcome in this would actually be like a pull side backspun ball, but for me, because my hands from the right side have a tendency to get through quicker than on the left side, I have to think backside gap, and usually that results in something middle of the field that's backspun.
Which is exactly what we're looking for. So before we get into it, I saw you hitting here earlier, and you were feeding the machine, and you were coming set, and then directly into the machine. What was the purpose of that? Is that something that you guys do specifically?
So we learned that from our hitting coaches at Air Force, and basically it's supposed to replicate a pitcher coming set and then slide stepping, because that's the fastest they'll get to the plate.
Yeah.
If you can be on time for that, and you can be on time when, you know, if they're a leg lift guy, wind up, whatever it is, if you can be on time for their slide step, you can be on time for everything else. So that's kind of why we focus on that when we feed machines.
I love that. So ready as quick as possible, and then I'm assuming that goes back to us having a firm front side, not standing up out of it, not drifting and trying to lunge towards that. We got to stay back and ready at all times, and then right when we're ready to go, it's just quick.
Controlled violence.
I love that. Perfect. All right, so after that round, right, so what we talked about, kind of what you're thinking in terms of direction and everything like that, and we've already talked about this ad nauseum through this video. Results aren't everything. You had a couple results there where you kind of felt like you got blown up, and then it was kind of like jumpy and rushy. Walk us through kind of your thought process when you do, and kind of how we get back to getting our best swing off when we do take bad swings.
Yeah, so I think early in the round was backspinning well, was a little late and was hitting a little too high. So, you know, those are fly balls to right field, which isn't a terrible result, but, you know, I'm not a guy that's gonna hit out 20, 25 home runs in a college season, so like I need to keep stuff low if possible. And so kept kind of backspinning it too much, a little late, a little under it. First adjustment, I basically just tried to beat the ball there, and I actually was later, so I tried more and was later because of it, and kind of got sawed off. And then after that, I basically tried to get my foot down earlier, and then I got a little jumpy, and I top spun it to the left side. So I think after that, it's basically just, all right, I got to take a deep breath, get back to originally what I was doing, and just try to find the point where I can lower the ball flight so that I'm backspinning over the second baseman instead of, you know, backspinning fly balls to the right fielder.
So, I mean, so much good there that I want to go. First off, what's the importance of what you mentioned, taking a deep breath and giving yourself a second? Because so many young hitters want to swing their way out of a bad round, right? Like, we've taken 2 swings, we're at swing 5 or 6, and we never get that many swings back to back to back in game. But so many hitters, another one, instead of taking, okay, I'm good. What's my feel? Let's get back to square one and then go to work. How important is that breath to just being able to get back to square one? And
it's, at the end of the day, it's the most game-like. So, you know, if I get blown up on a ball in a game, if I flare one foul, if I yank one foul, I don't get to ask the pitcher for 3 more swings to figure it out, right? So what I have to be able to do is take a deep breath, get back to my original thoughts and my approach, and figure out how to make the adjustment without over adjusting.
100%. And then the other thing is, you said you kind of started where you're kind of late and under. Is that kind of one where, like, we went right from flips to the machine, and obviously things are moving a lot faster? Would you prefer to be kind of late and then work your timing from there, or would you prefer to get kind of out in front and then wind it back a little bit, or does not really matter?
I think for me personally, because it was drilled into me since I was young, stay inside the ball. So for me, and in college, our first round was always backside liners. So for me, that's more comfortable. It's more comfortable to be a little late, feel the barrel a little bit, and then as, you know, next round of BP, third round of BP, so on, you can start inching the barrel out there to where you're, you know, getting more results that you want. So for me, it's more comfortable to start late and then work my way to being on time, whereas, you know, some guys might like starting early and working their way on time, but that's a personal thing.
And the big thing for me too is your moves when you're late more times than not are at least synced up, right? So we're staying closed, we're not getting turny, we're not going to end up yanking balls foul, where we're just catching that ball contact point a little too deep. It's a little bit easier to kind of, oh, well, I need to, like you said, get my foot down earlier, and obviously not jump out of it, but get my foot down earlier, stay squared over that backside, and drive it back up the middle, compared to when we're way out in front, our upper half's flying, our head's flying, our path's out of sync, we're top spinning balls, and those aren't going to kind of create those end results that we're looking for, and then it's kind of out of control compared to just being late. It's just like, I just got to get my timing down, right?
100%.
Awesome, Sam. So now we're going to go left-handed, same thing, we're going to do offset machine. What's the different feels left-handed? You're a right-handed dominant guy, so does that play a factor in what your kind of feels are on left-handed?
So I think being right hand dominant and hitting lefty, my right hand wants to take over. Like it wants to pull and yank. So for me, I have to focus a lot more on my top hand and involving my top hand, because that's where backspin comes from. That's where stand through the ball comes from. And so for me, I aim more like dead center. If I can backspin 5 balls right at the center fielder, in BP, that's ideal scenario for a round. That's a perfect round for me. Because then I'm not getting too big. I'm not getting jumpy. I'm staying through it well. I'm spinning the ball well.
That's awesome. So what is the thought process on the top hand? Like I always like to talk about punching the pitcher, right? Because if we're punching the third base dugout, right, we're obviously in and out of it compared to punching through. It obviously kind of keeps us directionally. What's kind of your thought process?
I think for me, stay tight, because that keeps me from, instead of getting out here and punching the third baseman, now I'm here and everything's going that way.
Okay, cool, awesome. Let's see some swings.
Stop yanking.
That's what I gotta get away from.
So walk us through that round a little bit. Obviously the first couple swings, is there an intent to be lower left-handed, or obviously at the end there it was kind of more backspun, like, or was that just kind of something, off in your swing that created those lower, more ground balls than line out?
No, that was just, something was off.
Okay.
So first round, off machine, it's not always gonna be pretty.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So let's say I think I yanked one ground ball, maybe was late on one, and then maybe yanked another side, pull side ground ball. And for me, it was like, okay, so like my timing's pretty good because at least these ground balls are, between short and second, middle of the field. I'm just either pulling off a little bit, I'm trying almost too hard with this bottom hand again. So I basically need to focus that top hand down and keep my barrel down below the ball through the swing, instead of you know, getting here and then right hand taking over and getting steep up.
Yeah.
And then started to finally backspin them.
Yeah, no, those last couple swings obviously probably felt a lot better, and they definitely looked a lot better. Is that something that day by day? Do sometimes you feel better lefty or righty? Like, how do you work through that? Do you just kind of hope when you're feeling better righty, you just see more lefties that day?
I mean, yeah, sometimes it's what it comes down to. So it's day to day. So people ask me what side I'm better in, and I'll always tell them it's day to day. So some days I hop in the cage and I'm stroking balls left-handed, and from the right side it looks like I couldn't hit water if I fell out of a boat, right? And same vice versa on other days. So it's just one of those kind of weird intricacies about being a switch hitter is, you know, some days your left-handed swing is not going to feel good and a righty's going to be on the bump, and you kind of got to figure it out, right? Because at the end of the day, other hitters have to do the same thing. Like some days their swing's not going to feel great and they have to figure it out. And so, yeah, I think the biggest advice I'd give is if it's a consistent thing, so if it's like a week goes by and one side feels good and the other side, like let's say right-handed, felt bad all week, spend twice as much time working on that right-handed side. However much you hit left-handed, just do twice as much right-handed until they're back feeling good. And then obviously, you know, it's going to keep changing because that's how baseball goes. But
I had a hard enough time trying to figure out one side of the plate, so credit to you for being able to figure out both. But any closing thoughts for young hitters that you kind of got on your mind when you're talking about whether you want to talk to a young switch hitter who obviously you've grinded through the young ages of learning to switch hit, you did it later in life and everything like that, or just young baseball players about their swing and anything about their process in general? So
first off, for young switch hitters, I'd say it's okay to struggle, right? You're not playing as much baseball as you. The older you get, the more baseball you play. Like major leaguers play 162 plus games in a year. You know, when you're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you're not playing that many games. And so as a switcher, that's hard because now you're getting even fewer at bats because obviously you're splitting between two sides. And so the biggest thing is just stick with it. There'll come a time once you get to high school and stuff where now you're hitting every day, all spring, most of summer, depending on if you play in the fall or winter or whatever too. Just stick with it and always remember whatever side you're struggling with, just hit twice as much. And then just for young hitters in general, the 4 things that like I always focus on, I got this from Jimmy Rasinger, who's at West Virginia now, and Mark Mumper, who's with the Guardians now. 2 old coaches that had Air Forces. It spells out ROPA, so R is ready. So this is, you know, did you get enough sleep? Are you eating right? You take care of your body. Mentally, are you prepared? Did you do the physical preparation leading up to the game? O, are you on time? P, did you swing at a good pitch? Or did you swing at the right pitch? So if you're going up there and it's, you know, 1-0, 2-0, and you get sawed off on a inside fastball on the black, it's probably not the right pitch. Just because it's a strike doesn't always mean it's the right pitch. And last is A, approach. Did you have the right approach based on the pitcher? Because your approach is going to change based on who's throwing. So I think those 4 things always come before you focus on mechanics. Now, obviously, you can slightly adjust mechanics to help you get on time, but you shouldn't focus on huge mechanical changes until you can kind of do those 4 things.
Definitely. So what was it, AOPA?
ROPA. It's like close in Spanish.
Yep, gotcha. Perfect. Well, that's awesome advice for any young hitter and anything, and we appreciate you doing this, and we wish you the best of luck, obviously, this July, and hopefully to a long, fruitful MLB career.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Trevor.
Yep, no problem. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.